Okay. Call the meeting to order. Mayor and all 6 commissioners are present this evening. I'd like to call forward Damon Burpo to do the invocation and Commissioner Ezell to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this new year. We thank you for this new season and the new agendas that will be placed before this commission. I thank you for each and every person that volunteers their time here, Lord. Pray that you just bless them 100-fold for their service on behalf of the citizens of this great city, Enid, Oklahoma. Lord, we thank you that you're guiding the decisions that will be made, the topics that will be discussed. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you both. Item number 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of December 17th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item number 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Good evening. I'm Erica. I'm the Adoption and Volunteer Coordinator at Animal Control. Tonight I brought with me Pippa. Pippa is a year old. She is a Heeler Pyrenees mix. She is great with other dogs her size. I'm told that she's not so great with small dogs, but she is very calm and laid back. She wants to snuggle with you all day, but she is one of the many dogs that we have available for adoption at Animal Control. We are located at 1200 South 10th Street. We are open Monday through Friday from 10 to 6 and on the weekends from 12 to 3. So come out and adopt you a new fur baby. They're all waiting for new homes. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, item 5.2, recognize City of Enid Employees of the Month. Sign them up.
Mayor and Commissioners, I want to take this opportunity to recognize some city employees for being selected as Employee of the Month for December from various areas in the city. And Brandon, I think we'll start with you from Public Utilities, if you'll come on up. Brandon Carter. And probably Lou and Chris, do you want to come on up? And I've known Brandon a long time. He's been here, does great things for us, but you guys probably would like to elaborate because I think you nominated Brandon.
I just like to say that Brandon makes it easier for me to sleep at night. When I know Brandon's on call and taking care of the problems, taking care of any of the issues, I can sleep at night. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that.
Got a coin for you, Brandon. And I know that Chris has got your plaque and he wants to say a few things. Thank you.
So I was preparing some comments for tonight, and there's actually a story that I'd like to tell because it really epitomizes why Brandon is our Employee of the Month. He got a phone call from Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, ODEQ, and the guy was going on and on and on about this sewer overflow and how the city crews didn't help the guy out and told me he had to call his own plumber and get everything fixed out. And I asked Brandon, I said, Brandon, what's the address? And he said, well, I've got it written down somewhere. And that's not like Brandon, because he knows every address. He knows every manhole number, the depth of every manhole, and all the sewer lines. He finished telling me the story. He says, no, it's not about Enid. It's about this other city up north, and we wanted to call you to see how you would handle the situation. So when the state is calling little old Enid to ask him how to do something, that's why we have Brandon here, and that's why we have an Employee of the Month. Thanks, Brandon.
Very good.
I don't know what to say, but thank you very much. It's an honor working here, 25 years and counting, so thank you very much.
From our Public Works area, we have Frank Sweet. Frank, come on up. Michael, Everett. Frank is a system, industrial systems integrator. Don't know everything that means, but part of what it means is a technical expert on everything from SCADA systems. I'm going to throw out traffic lights and things of that nature in our technical services department. So Michael and Everett, do you want to elaborate further?
Yes, I'd like to say I've worked with Frank for many years now, side by side in some cases, and a lot in the supervisor role over. Frank is one heck of an employee. He does what is asked of him. He's always got a good smile on his face and a very positive attitude. And we really need a lot of employees like Frank. And I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
I've only been here for about 7 months, and Frank was the one that he mentored me, or he's mentoring me now. He's been a big help. Here's some of the feedback we got from our employees when they were nominated. His work is thorough and meticulous, obviously. He's willing to accommodate. He's physically responsible. He's safety conscious. He's ready and willing to go the extra mile. He does volunteer work. He'll work overtime. Very respectful and courteous. He's super smart when it comes to our city's infrastructure. We'd love to have several guys in our midst like Frank. He requires very little supervision. He gets results, and he exceeds expectations. It's a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Pretty much what Brandon said. I've only been here 18 years, and I do enjoy my job with the city of Enid, and I'll be here till I retire. Thank you.
We'd like to go ahead and recognize another employee who couldn't be here tonight, Sierra Granger, who works in our utility services department. Scott, do you want to speak about? You've met Sierra before because she's been here before because of her customer service and her skills in the department.
So Gerald's going to give this award to Sierra later, but I just wanted to say I had the privilege of hiring Sierra a long time ago, and she does a fantastic job in utilities. If you've ever got a problem, she works well with other departments. She has a good reputation, and that's what we need in this city. We need good employees who will make our citizens proud, and she does that. So congratulations to Sierra.
All right.
And I've got one more announcement tonight. Mayor, Commissioners, I guess I've been busy doing other things and haven't mentioned to you. I want to recognize Carrie. Why don't you come on up? Carrie Sollenberger. Carrie has been my executive assistant for more than a year. Maybe it's been 2 years. It's been a while. And things have run very smoothly. Carrie is going to be moving. And I'm going to miss her. And you know Carrie because you frequently interact with her. So we're going to miss her. All of us are going to miss her. And I want to bring her up and make sure you knew that and give you a coin and to take back to Illinois with you and show off in Peoria or wherever you're going to end up.
Somewhere in all of Chicago, basically, so. But I really appreciate all of you. You all have been phenomenal to work for and to help out with everything, and not just all the people here, but the community as well. It's been really great. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for everything you've done for the city.
All right. Okay. Item 5.3, present Martin Luther King Jr. Day Proclamation. Can I ask the folks that are here from the Martin Luther King Committee to come forward, please? Okay, let me start by reading the proclamation, and then we'll have time for a few words after that. Proclamation from the City of Enid, Oklahoma. Whereas the City of Enid recognizes the importance of celebrating Dr. King's birthday and established the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Commission in August of 1989. And whereas the purpose of the commission is to promote and celebrate Dr. King's birthday and acceptance of diversity in our community. And whereas the Commission and the City of Enid recognize and affirm those who make significant contributions in the areas of race relations, justice, and human rights by presenting the Diversity Award at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Celebration. And whereas the City of Enid wishes to promote this holiday in order to inspire the citizens to his dream of education, development, and communications. And whereas this year's theme is Unity is the Dream. And now, therefore, I, Mayor George C. Pankinen, on this important occasion, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor, and on behalf of the City of Enid, do hereby declare January 20th, 2020 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunder set my hand, caused the seal of City of Enid to be affixed on this 7th day of January 2020. Signed, George C. Pankinen, Mayor of Enid. And this is really an important event. I've had many chances to talk with a lot of people in the community, and this is one of the things. Growing up in the military, I think we've been diverse for a very long time. I think we're very much ahead of the curve, and oftentimes when you get to communities, you don't find that closeness. I find that closeness in Enid, and it's because of you all. So I appreciate that. I'd like to present this and give you a few minutes if you'd like to highlight some of the events happening this weekend, next weekend in concert with that. So let me shake hands with you. Commissioner. Okay. Hi. Yeah.
Mayor, if I may,
Sure, please.
highlight one event.
Please.
This Saturday, we will be having our prayer breakfast, and it's going to be at the Central Assembly of God Church Family Life Center, 1202 West Oxford. We will be having pancakes, sausage, fruit trays, eggs, all coffee, juice, all kinds of things. So you're more than welcome to come. The tickets are $3 for adults. $3 for children and $5 for adults. And I do have some with me if you want some.
And I'd like to thank all the city commissioners, the Enid, City of Enid, everybody has supported the Martin Luther King celebration, the donors. I'd like to thank them. We have lots of donors. Wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the donors that help support this Martin Luther King. And I'd like to say the program is January the 18th at 2:30. We will start our march at the Stride Bank Center. We started there. And we'll march about 8 blocks. And we'll be back at the center at 3 o'clock. We start the program. And we have one of the best speakers in Enid.
Oh, don't do that.
One of the best short speakers.
Now we talking. Now we talking.
And it's at 5 o'clock, we'll be serving dinner there. So you're welcome to come, and it's all free. So please invite and come and see this awesome, awesome program. Thank you again, Mayor.
Thank you so much.
One thing I'd like to say, we need to announce his name as Commissioner Jonathan Waddell. He's the main speaker, and we're giving him a minimum of 20 minutes. So I want to personally invite his colleagues to come and hear this awesome man speak. Not only that, but he's also a great man of God. Thank you.
wanted to mention that we have the Colonel Simmons is going to speak at our breakfast, so.
Will he also get 20 minutes?
Better not.
Okay, item number 6, continue a public hearing pursuant to the request of CALP LLC, doing business as Suddenlink Communications, cable operator, for an extension and renewal of its right to operate a community antenna television system within the corporate limits of the city of Enid, Oklahoma, pursuant to Section 626 of the Cable Communication Policy Act of 1984, as amended, with the purpose of such hearing to, 1, review the performance of the cable operator under the license during the current licensing term, 2, identify the cable-related community needs and interest, and 3, hear from the public. Okay, so the hearing is in order. Let me start first with, we have 2 people that have signed up specifically to talk to this issue, so I'll call them in order. We had on the chart that we would be limited to 2 minutes. Since there are only 3 speakers tonight, I'll go ahead and allow 5 minutes for each speaker if they'd like that. First speaker signed up is Diane Levesque.
Diane Levesque, 1324 West Oak Avenue. I wanted to repeat in the presence of the Suddenlink rep, the same thing I talked about last commission, and that is what you have here is a penny from 1995, very tarnished, 2011, shiny penny. And for all the fiber cable that you've got running along your rights-of-way, this is your weakest link when you're talking about cable, coaxial cable tapping in from the fiber optics. These pennies are copper clad because copper has gotten more expensive than the pennies. 1 cent's worth of copper. It's no longer 1 cent's worth of copper. Now, if Suddenlink wants to improve service around here, it's got a lot of old coaxial actual copper to replace, and at what cost. So I'm just pointing out the questions that should be raised when considering to terminate or renew with Suddenlink, because I think it's kind of clear that wireless is the technology of the future, and it's not cost effective for Suddenlink to do business with you any more than it is for you to charge a franchise fee that isn't worth what's in the rights of way if it can't get to the individual customers by anything better than copper coaxial cable. Now, what becomes of that fiber optical cable that's already in your rights of way? Your rights of way have been devalued by wireless, basically, and the cost of replacing a lot of copper cable just to provide the service utilizing that fiber optics. That is an open-ended question to think about. Now, the city already decided on this, and I wanted to point that out since I know Altice has taken over Suddenlink. After the city made the decision to drop Suddenlink for city services and contract with AT&T. So basically, this body has already decided on the quality of service, or lack of it, provided by Suddenlink, but are you going to give Altice a chance to make good on that? But Altice, to make good and better service, is going to have to replace a lot of copper cable, and for what? It's perishable. That'll tarnish over the years. Think about that. Now, the impact on the PIG channels. Cable service gives you the public access cable channels, the government channel, the education channel, the public access channel. You go wireless, and that's under a completely different set of FCC rules. And it will impact Enid Public Schools. It can't have that channel 19 without cable. Just think about that.
Okay. All right. Second person signed up to speak to the Suddenlink issue is Mr. James Faulkner. Please give your full name and address, please.
My name is Jim Faulkner, and my address is 4109 Timber Lane here in Enid, Oklahoma. Mayor Panketin and Commissioners, I have 3 issues that I would like to address. That's problems that I perceived started in October of 2019. First is the email interface with another internet service provider. Second, email programs. And the third is customer service issues. On the first issue of internet service provider, I can receive email from Cox customers, but I'm unable to send or reply to email from Cox customers. And I asked another Suddenlink customer if he would send email to the friends that I had with Cox.net addresses, and he got the same, he was unable to send it and got the same message back. I confirmed that the email addresses were correct, and they were. And I talked to Suddenlink, and they indicated that they had fixed the problem. And they indicated that a supervisor would call me today, or well, within the next 72 hours. The second issue is email programs. I use Outlook and Netscape mail programs, and they stopped working in October. The Outlook started working a day or two later, but the Netscape has not started to work. Whenever I activate the program, it asks me for a password. I put it in. It indicates that the mail is being sent. I have it, it goes into my out basket. I look, the day and the time are correct, but the mail never goes to the individual. I've even tried sending email to my own email address at Suddenlink, and it never gets there. The third is customer service. In the past, when I've called Suddenlink and talked to one of their service representatives, there's a lot of background noise, and I can hear other conversations going on in the background, and it's very difficult to hear the technician that I'm talking with. The other thing that I've noticed at the local store, when I go in to talk to the people at the local store, the lines are kind of long, and usually you're waiting from 20 to 40 minutes. And there was a period of time, and I don't know if it's still going on, but there were certain people that worked in the store that could not, you could not pay your bill. And one time when I paid my bill, they could not give me any change, so they just gave me credit for the next month on my bill. The next thing that has to do with the call-ins on the customer service, I called in and I asked a technician I wanted to check my settings on my POP3 and on my SMTP to see if the settings were correct, and the individual was unable to help me and didn't seem to know what I should put in for my settings to see if I had the right settings so I could send the email. The last item are the telephone wait times. Between October and December, on 2 occasions I waited over an hour and never was able to get hold of anybody whenever I called in to Suddenlink. Now, I called in on the 5th and the 6th, and the times were, since the 1st of January, the times, within 5 minutes I'm talking to a customer service rep, so maybe they've got that problem fixed. The other area that they told me a supervisor would call me back in 24 to 72 hours, and I said, what time of day are they going to call me back? And they said, any time of day. And I thought, my wife isn't going to be very happy getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to a phone call after I've already left. So I thought maybe they could be a little better on their callbacks. And in the past, when I would talk to a supervisor, I might have to wait on the phone 20 minutes to talk to a supervisor, but I could talk to them the same day rather than waiting 2 to 3 days to get a call back. Sir, that's all I have.
Okay.
See if there's anybody that wants not signed up.
Okay. Thank you. Was there anybody else in the room that didn't get a chance to sign up that wanted to speak to the Suddenlink issue? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. We need your name and address, please.
My name is Carrie Purvis, and I live at 317 Old Trail here in Enid, Oklahoma. I can understand how that gentleman talked because I've been through the same thing. It's too bad that Suddenlink does not have training for their employees. If they had training for their customer service employees, they might be a little bit more understanding of what it means to wait on the phone for an hour. I think that in dealing with people, you have to know how to talk with them, and then you also have to know how to give them the right information. I've also been down to the store down on a Garriott. I thought maybe if I got down there and saw somebody, I might be able to talk a little bit, get a little bit better service. But that didn't work either. So what I want, I don't know who they are, where they are, but what I want them to know is if they would give their employees training, and then those people who are in the store, if they would maybe have somebody to answer the questions and then let somebody else take the money, it would be better because everybody's out the door. I mean, you go down there and you're seeing out the door, and that's not a very good way to do. Suddenlink, I don't know anything about their company, but I think if they would train their employees, if they would be conscious that people are humans and have things to do and not wait all day on the phone or at the office, at the building down there, that they would get things done better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's all we had that were signed up. Is there any other individuals that'd like to speak to this topic?
Bryce.
Okay. Seeing none, the gentleman from Suddenlink last time made the offer that they would, if anybody wanted to talk to him outside the door or outside chambers, they could. Would you gentlemen be willing to do that?
Yeah, at the conclusion of this topic, we'll be out in the lobby.
Okay.
And then Bryce is going to come up and do the presentation.
Oh, right now? Okay. All right, Mr. Kennedy, we're ready for you.
Thank you. I am Bryce Kennedy. It's hard to follow that Martin Luther King presentation. I remember that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Rob, you were on the council, right? You're on the council. And I'm proud to say that that came from the legal department, but not from me. It came from Carol. And, she's the one that advanced it. Maybe everybody knows that.
No.
But, 30 years ago, and I'm proud 30 years later to know that the legal department did that, Anyway, we're here to talk about cable. And we do have Suddenlink representatives here today, and they are willing to meet with anybody that wants to talk to them. I think that Rob put it to me earlier at the study session. His email and phone calls have slowed down, at least in talking to some of the city administration and some of the communication. Times have slowed down, times on the telephone. I mean, I think that they heard you. Now, the important thing is that continues. And that's what is. And that can be part of this relicensing procedure. Because what you'll find out through this presentation is there's lots of things in your existing franchise that support customer service protection. There's things in your existing, licensing agreement where you, the city, you're gonna have to spend a little time and money on it. But you can help receive that information, catalog that information, and use that information to make it a better system. So Commissioner Zell pointed out I have 35 slides.
36.
36 slides, which is a lot of slides. There's a lot of words in the slide. Let's just start through it. This is the hearing. I do want to point out that Suddenlink is just a trade name. That's how they do business. We're actually talking about Seabridge Acquisition LP, and that was purchased. And that company right now is the company that owns and operates this, but they were purchased by Altice USA back in December 21st, 2015. But it's still Seabridge Acquisition LP that owns and runs this, and they do business as Suddenlink. See if this works. Perfect. Now, how did we get the information for this? Well, first of all, we've had meetings. We've had meetings with staff. Carol and I have had meetings. We've discussed these issues. We've shared emails and had two or three meetings with Suddenlink representatives. And Suddenlink representatives have been very kind to give me, this many documents. Many of them are confidential, but that I have read. Many of them are not under the FCC rules, and we'll talk about that in the middle, but they give me a volume of information. And there's a 10K report in there. If you're really interested in this, about the first 20 or 30 pages of that 10K report are really, really factual about this company. I mean, it's almost like a statement in a bond transaction, who they are, what they do, and all that. And you may be very interested in reading that. Take a look at that and send that off to them and see if they'd like to do that. And so the other thing that I did is I took that information, everything we learned, and I put it through the licensing ordinance and looked at the licensing ordinance and compared it to the records, the conversations that we had to come up with some of the facts that we have here today. Now, we do have a lot of facts. We've got strand maps, we have testing criteria. There are things that if you want to go further, you would want to hire an engineer to take a look at some of this. We had some comments today about, coaxial. I'm going to talk about that, fiber to the home systems. Currently, we have a coaxial fiber system here. But it is possible to discuss. One of the things to discuss in the relicensing is, in fact, the system, and that's one of the things that you can discuss, the system that's being provided. So, what are the things that we're going to talk about today? The specific inquiries is: has the cable operator provided satisfactory performance? Do they have the financial, legal, technical qualifications to operate the system? Does their proposal meet the future needs and interests of the city of Enid? And has the cable operator complied with the terms of the existing license? Okay, so those 4 criteria. Starting with the first one, has the cable operator provided satisfactory performance during the licensing term? This, of course, is a decision for the Board of Commissioners. Now, this is one of the important things that we need to remember, and this is all governed by federal law. Denial of a relicense may not be based upon the failure of the cable operator to comply with the material terms of the license or the quality of service unless the cable operator has been given notice and an opportunity to cure. Documentation of the cable operator's breaches, to include failure in the quality of the product provided and customer service, must be presented to the cable operator during the term of the licensing period with a demand for cure in order to hold the cable operator liable. And I'll get into that. Why is that? Well, we'll get into that, a little bit later. Now, of course, in this licensing agreement, the city has an option to acquire the cable system upon the issuance of a final unappealable order supporting the revocation. So there's, something at the end. If in fact it did get revoked, you would have the right to buy it under the terms, under your licensing agreement. The next one is, does the cable operator have the financial, legal, and technical qualifications to operate the cable system? Well, they've got 5 million customers. They have revenue of $95 million with an adjusted gross of 41, and adjusted gross after capital expenditures that's of course, yeah. The cable operator, and of course what they provide is they provide television services, broadband stations, digital pay-per-view. I mean, they provide everything that, that's out there right now. They have 477 channels. They provide telephone services, mobile services, enterprise business services, dedicated data access, wireless mesh services. It's difficult to say that they don't meet this criteria. Okay, they do have financial, legal, technical qualifications to operate the system. So, they've got one. Does the cable operator's proposal meet the future needs and interests of the city? The cable operator has been requested to submit a written proposal, and the parties are negotiating the renewal. The cable operator today in an email said that they plan to have a proposal to us by Friday. A final determination of this issue, as all the issues, is up to the Board of Commissioners. In their 10-K report that I want to get you a copy of, the cable operator stated they're building a fiber to the home network in a part of their Suddenlink footprint. The Enid system is a hybrid fiber coax system capable of providing, those services listed. They also provide Altice Home Communication Hub. And in response is, are you planning to upgrade this one to a fiber to the home? They said it has not been scheduled as a fiber to the home system at this time. So that's the response that we got. Has the cable operator complied with the terms of the existing license? Well, we're going to do the boring part now. We're going to run through the provisions. The first provision is that prior to the sale or transfer of any of the rights under the license, they're supposed to get the approval of the city, which shall not be unreasonably withheld, and they must agree in writing, the new company must agree in writing to be responsible for the license. Now, in December 21st, 2015, Altice USA acquired the cable operator. Prior to that time, Cox Communications sold and transferred its cable system to this cable operator. And in doing that, they secured the written approval of all the municipalities. At that time, all the municipalities had to concur because it was a sale and transfer of the franchise, and not just in this community, but in all the communities in the state. I did it in Perry, you were doing it here, they were doing it in Stillwater. We were kind of all putting our heads together at that time. And my inquiry here is, I know how it was set up and how it was done. You have Altice, which bought this other corporation, but was in fact a transfer or sale. It looks to me like under the language it was, and consent, although it couldn't be unreasonably withheld, should have been sought and granted. So that's an issue. The next licensing provision, they provided just a whole lot of information about where their fiber is, trunk and feeder design, number of locations, nodes, and talking about, they didn't talk about upgrades to the system as a part of this proposal. But we do have a lot of information. We understand that there's standby power at the head end. It's provided by 2 generators. They have a system that's redundant. It has diverse backbone conductivity with a path to Oklahoma City, Stillwater, and on to Tulsa. So if one leg gets cut off, they can feed it back through another leg. They also have battery backup systems to protect the system down at the head end. They also provided the FCC proof of performance summaries, and they gave us a whole lot of information. Once I did say that if you hired an engineer to take a look at it, you could get a whole lot more information, perhaps even what it would cost to do, a fiber to the home, what kind of investment that would make. Except when beyond the control of the cable provider, does the licensee respond to cable service interruptions promptly in no event less than 24 hours? That condition is supposed to be met 95% of the time. Now, in answer to that question, the cable operator said it's the company's practice under normal operating conditions to promptly respond to all cable service interruptions and in any event in compliance with the applicable law. You know, my comment is whether this requirement was met or not would be difficult to prove without monitoring customer complaints directly. But it does appear, at least in the last few months, there's been failures to meet that standard. The next licensing provision has the cable operator establish procedures to receive, act upon, and resolve subscriber complaints. And they've detailed to us in request for my request that you can call a number, you can go to a website that Altice surveys customers through these channels to monitor responses, to provide feedback to their systems. You can also bring specific concerns to their head of government relations, Brad Ayers. Now, my comment here is under your licensing ordinance, you have the right to approve those complaint procedures. So, I mean, you have a right to negotiate them, to agree to them, and they can involve you, with respect to unresolved complaints. We'll get to that. And you may want to consider taking advantage of that right. You have had that right. It's currently in the licensing ordinance. You may want to take advantage of that. The next one is, does the cable operator notify the city in writing of unresolved complaints? I've checked with Carol. The license agreement said they should. They don't. They haven't. They did when we asked them, and they gave us the complaints. They have resolved, in accordance with the response, all their complaints except for 3. They're here today to talk to folks. I will tell you once again that the response we're getting is that they've gotten on it. And we need to keep that. Customer service is very important, and I think they heard from the council and from the public about that, and I think they heard it loud, and I think that they have got on, and I understand that they've advertised for additional employees, and I think that they've heard us. Now, the licensing ordinance provides they are supposed to notify us. If they did notify us of unresolved complaints, and if we chose to designate a system to monitor and ensure resolution of the complaints, then we would have the requisite information to enforce the provisions of the licensing ordinance, which is, of course, if you want to enforce it, you need to have the information. Once again, notice, opportunity to cure, and follow-up. Certify that the cable system has been built, operated, and maintained within this criteria. Their response is, to the best of the operator's knowledge, the cable system has been built throughout the city's primary service area, has been extended to areas that meet or exceed the minimum required home density. Since 2017, they passed 180 new households and made their service available. I think one of the things that we didn't hear, today or at the other hearing was, I can't get it. And I think if there are folks, I can't get it, they probably would have been here, or, you got emails and calls, they probably would have called you and said something. So, it does look like they have built the system throughout the community. There is a criteria for extension. You have to have a certain number of customers within that area for them to have the requirement to go out and put the line. I mean, they're not going to run it a mile for one customer. That would not be a reasonable business practice, and that's not what's in the agreement. Is the cable license system constructed and operated to meet or exceed minimum FCC consumer performance standards? Now, this is the one that just today, they had answered with the general statement. But they said today, because I answered, you really haven't, fleshed that out for us, and they said that they would get back to us on that. But let's just spend a minute. These are the FCC criteria. The cable operator must retain a local toll-free collect call access line, which will be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. After normal business hours, access line may be answered by a service or automated response system. Under normal operating conditions, telephone answer time by a customer representative, including wait time, should not exceed 30 seconds. when connection is made. Under normal operating conditions, the customer will receive a busy signal less than 3% of the time. Customer service center billing locations will be open at least normal business hours. Standard installations install to dwellings located up to 120 feet from the existing distribution system will be performed in 7 business days, at least 95% of the time. Cable operator will begin working on service interruptions promptly and within 24 hours after interruption becomes known. Cable operator must begin actions to correct other service problems the next business day after notification of the problem. These aren't ours. This is the FCC. These are the minimum standards, okay? The appointment window for installation service calls or other installation activities will either be a specific time or at a maximum of 4-hour time block during normal business hours. A cable operator cannot cancel an appointment with a customer after the close of business on the business day before the scheduled appointment. If the cable operator is late for an appointment, cannot keep the appointment, the customer must be contacted. The appointment must be rescheduled at a time which is convenient for the customer. The cable operator must provide written information of its services at the time of installation annually. And my comment is that these FCC consumer performance standards are the minimum requirements for the cable operator to provide minimum performance under the licensing agreement. And without an adequate complaint system monitored by the city, it may be difficult to identify violations or measure performance. I know I'm saying the same thing over again, but I'm trying to make a point. Okay. What records are required to be maintained and provided for inspections pursuant to FCC consumer protection standards? You know, I'm just going to leave this provision. There's a lot of detail in there, but I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to read it but this is stuff that you can get that's required to be, which is required to be provided. Any resident can get it. Okay, and I just wanted to list that. Certify that a single installation of non-premium cable service has been extended to all locations listed and free services provided. Look at this. I mean, 15 public school buildings, 4 college buildings, and 15 city government buildings. I mean, that's, you know, that's pretty good. That's a lot of service. Now we're getting into PEG. You know, this city has invented PEG in Oklahoma. I mean, it was a leader, and it still is. You're moving on to the new system, but you're still doing what you promised or you started to do back in '85, and that is you're communicating with the public, and you're bringing the message of government to the public. And I salute you for it, because there's lots of other things that you could have done with that money. And you did do this, and you're continuing to do it with your program. But the requirements were 3 channels for, public, educational, government, pay some money, and pay the lease, and they provided all of those. Now, as of December 4th, and I mean, you folks know it because, you're the one that did it, they notified them, and we're moving on to Enid communication via YouTube and Facebook. We did have a discussion at one of our meetings. I don't really want to spark that here, but we did have a discussion about, whether those channels should remain or have some function. But I understand what the council did, and that's clearly within your discretion. But we among the city staff, we kind of still had a bit of a discussion about that. And they have paid all those amounts. I told you that they have 477 channels. This kind of lays out where their channels are. Some of them are duplicative. Some of them are HD. Some are standard, but this provides that, and that was in one of their responses. They do have parental locking devices, which are provided. And with respect to this one, they have records of outages, records of service calls for repair and maintenance, but if you look under 1 and 2, the records failed to contain some of the information which is required by the licensing ordinance, including date, duration, area, percentage of subscribers affected, type of outages, and you can read the ones under the The service calls for repair and maintenance, they're missing some things on those forms, but that's really just once again, you know, we could have caught that and required that because that is required under the licensing ordinance. They also provided a graph of installations and reconnection, which showed that almost in every instance they got connections and installations done in 4.28 days. And I think, you know, we talked about that standard under FCC. That's a 7-day standard. I said before they received 30 complaints, they're down to 3. Once again, the city can work and it can approve the form of the outage report, the service call report, and the complaint form. And those forms can contain the information that's in the licensing ordinance. With respect to this one, we have subscribers. The cable operator provided exhibit on subscribers, although the total number of video customers is up for the year. The difference between the number of customers gained and lost during the past 6 months is a negative number. Okay, I mean, when you take gained and lost, it's a negative number. And there was a deep slide in November 2019, just, you know, pointing that out. They have passed 180 homes. I think we said that before. They have done all of the filings that we requested. Some are EEOC filings. This 10K, which we talked about, they had filed leakage reports. We only got them from January 2019, though, but they did have all that, and they haven't requested protection under any bankruptcy laws. They provided a bunch of information with respect to their facility. And they also provided that any of that can be reviewed down at the cable office. They invited city representatives to come down and look at any and all of their information. They provided a performance guarantee bond. The date on it was December 11th, 2019. It was supposed to be in place, you know, during the period. It's supposed to guarantee payments. This bond is more of a surety bond. They need to look at that, and they need to look at the term in the licensing agreement. I don't think it fits. So I would say look at that again and see if they think that it fits. I don't think it does. With respect to the $5,000 security fund, that's just an ability to assess them $100 for defaults. I mean, small defaults with respect to individual customers, okay? And once again, you've got to have somebody looking at that to do that. And the response to that was that TCI put that up. Well, that's required to be put up under the terms of this license. So, you know, and we can't find the $5,000. So, I mean, they need to put it up. Customer service standards. You know, this is just their statement that they follow FCC or. Let's just see. I've said it 3 times. They need to detail that out. I mean, how they're meeting those FCC guidelines. And they said they would in the email today. Now, license fees, money. And this is the big thing. I mean, when this became a federal issue, we'll talk about this in a second, but I do want to say that when this became a federal issue, there was no federal licensing. There was no state licensing in most states. And cities could do whatever they wanted to do with respect to these cable companies. And the cable companies went to Congress and said, we want help. You know, I mean, these folks are all asking for different stuff. And a compromise was struck. And the compromise was very simple. I'm making it very simple, but I'm making it specific. And it was, you get to renew unless you're a real screw up. Okay, but you can charge up to 5% franchise fee. And really, it's not if you're a real screw up. It's like if you violate it and they call you on it and they give you an opportunity to cure it and you don't cure it, well, then they don't have to renew. But here's the procedure to go through that. But that's what, if you want to talk about what did everybody get when they went to the table, that's what they got. The city's got more money, and they got not a guarantee, but they got a hard procedure to stop a renewal. So where's the money? Almost $2.9 million for about a 5-year period. And look at this revenue. It hit a high of 53, almost 54,000 in a month, and it's been going down. And this is all public record too. And its biggest dip was November 2019, and I told you about the net gain. I mean, I think the public saw what they came in and talked to you about, and hopefully they've done things to turn that around. But the data supports what everyone was saying. At least that's the way I read. That's the way I read it. Licensing provision, they have significantly higher insurance than what we require, including a giant umbrella, $5 million umbrella. My comment is that there's a provision of the ordinance that says that they must give us 30 days prior to a material alteration or cancellation that wasn't present on the policy, so that needs to be corrected. Have they given 30 days notice of increased basic rates? I checked with Carol. I know they do in my other cities. I mean, every time we get one, do they direct it to the mayor or to the manager? In my other cities,
They send it to the city, and I don't know if it goes specifically to the mayor, but we get notices.
Yeah, you get a lot of them. I do in a lot of the cities because we send them on to the council, and there are some rate increases, and so they do that. They did provide us all their rates. They didn't give us whether they proposed to increase any rates in 2020. On rates, just on rates. I'm sure that it would be determined that there's effective competition under your ordinance, your licensing ordinance. You have the right to regulate the basic rate if there's not effective competition. It's a whole procedure you have to go through the FCC. By this time, 2019, there is effective competition between other cable providers, other methods of receiving service, and it would be doubtful whether we could, ever be able to control rates. And because it's a business, they can set the rates, but they've got to set the rates at, whatever they see the market is, because they do have competition. So we checked about, are there any problems with the right-of-way? Because they're out in the right-of-ways, and we found that there weren't any after checking with engineering and some of the folks on the ground. They gave us their basic tiers of service. I can provide that document to you, but it shows how many different ways you can enjoy cable TV and what those prices are. Now, why does the city let this monopoly continue? Why can't the city get someone else to provide cable services? Maybe you've heard those kind of comments, But here's the power. Here's the truth. We don't have the power to grant a monopoly. We can't legally grant a monopoly. Any other cable provider can come to Enid and provide cable television services, and if we granted them a better deal, they would get that deal because it's got to be fair, okay? But it's doubtful that a cable operator would come to Enid as the cost to enter the market is too great. And that's for the same reason why you don't have 2 electric companies or 2 gas companies. To run those lines down there and serve the same customer base, it's just not going to happen. And unlike gas and electric, the cable operator does have competition. DirecTV, Dish, wireless streaming services, wireless folks, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, a lot of folks are competing for those same dollars. So is it a monopoly? Well, to the same level that the electric companies are monopoly, but in Stillwater it's not. Stillwater's got its lines, and right across the street are CREC. In Blackwell has its electric lines, and right across the street are K Electric. It's just the way your city is set up. It's OG&E, and here it's cable TV. It's Seabridge Acquisition. Because they have bought those rights down through the years. Now, why can't the public vote on this? Because you vote on gas, right? You vote on electric, right? Rob, you remember we voted on continuing the electric for 24. Why not cable? Well, the reason is it's governed by federal law. And because they made this deal, right? You know, you pretty much renew. You got to go through this process. And if you could do it just as easy as the public didn't vote it in, well, then that would offend the federal law. So it got preempted. Now, what about this federal law? Why was it adopted? Well, I've already explained that. This deal was made, and it was money for not a guarantee, but a difficult or an easier time to renew. So what now? This is the last slide. This is 36. Thank you, Jim.
Not yet, Jim.
At the direction of the Board of Commissioners, the governing body may determine that the public hearing portion is concluded. City staff's going to get together with cable. We're going to meet with a cable operator, and we're going to work to negotiate a renewal of this licensing agreement. They're going to give us some terms by the end of the week. You know, I intend to talk about the things that I talked about here today. And I actually think that the licensing ordinance that we have is good. And we have continued in the past by the approval of a resolution. We've put a few other things in it or a little agreement, but we've said it's the old one because we have a good one, you know? I just think that maybe this time, and we need to talk about term and we need to talk about some of these protections that I've talked about, but a lot of that will just be done on our side. You know, we will evoke ourselves to work it a little bit harder than we have, if that's what the Board of Commissioners wants to do. I previously provided you with a memo concerning the issues which the parties can negotiate and agree on, which is consistent with federal and state law. And the hope is that prior to April 21st, 2020, that we can bring back something. We can have a couple of meetings on this and bring something back that you can look at and review and make a determination.
We are tentatively thinking about being in executive session, the first meeting in February with Mr. Kennedy to talk about it.
I had a question about one of the standards in one of the earlier slides several hours ago was about the whether the cable franchise was going to meet future needs. That was one of those 4 criteria.
Yes, it is.
What standard does the governing body get to make that determination? What's the?
Well, that's able to be negotiated, you know, and that's the type of system that we have, which gets to, you know, the issue of.
But if the governing body determines that, I mean, can the governing body simply vote that the community's future needs can only be met by a fiber-to-home system?
It can raise that. It can raise that issue as a part of the negotiation. Can it fail to grant a license based on that? I would prefer to discuss that at the first meeting in February.
Sure. Do you do any work for Ponca City?
I did their franchise with back about 10 years ago with Cable One.
All right, that Ponca City put in place their own fiber-to-home
Yes,
system?
they did. And we have talked about going up there and visiting with Craig Stevenson and them. I mean, we have talked about taking a group of city council, Board of Commissioner members, a small group up there, meeting with Craig Stevenson and just taking a look at what they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just say they do have a cable company as well. Cable
Yes,
One.
they do. It's Cable One.
Yeah. But they also do a fiber optic to home system that the city runs, more or less.
Yes, they do.
It sounds like what you are primarily recommending, the biggest change you're recommending is a different regime to monitor Suddenlink's compliance with what they've already agreed to or what they're already complied or obligated to do. Is that right?
And talking about the system.
Yeah.
Talking about the issue that you've brought up.
So assuming we can work out the system issues, do you have a model that some other community has implemented to do that kind of monitoring? I mean, I would just imagine that, I mean, it sounds like we need somebody, regardless of what we do, to be watching that better than we have, because otherwise, how can we tell them they're not complying? But I would rather not have to create something from whole cloth.
Yeah, I think under the licensing ordinance that I could put together something that would be easy to, I mean, it would take a little bit of work, but it would be reasonable, and it would be easy to administer.
I guess I'm asking if there's another community in which you've worked with, and you can tell us later, that we could go crib a model from, just so we don't have to spend a lot of our city staff time.
A lot of cities, we could check with Oklahoma City, like, you know, I mean, Enid has always, in the area of telecommunication, been in the forefront, okay? Enid has been a leader. Whether that exists or not, you know, I'm not sure. And I am doubtful. A colleague of mine, Robert Jernigan, went around, he's deceased now, but he went around. I mean, I could check with some of the cities that he has done that. He did the one in Blackwell. But, you know, very few follow it through from the licensing ordinance to actually doing what the licensing ordinance provides.
Well, I think that's a really good point, Bryce, that, you know, we can't hold them to it unless we have the data to show that there are or aren't. I mean, that's
the data and put them on notice.
Yeah. I mean,
and ask for a cure. Of course, you know, what's perfect is they step up and cure the issues, and so it,
well,
you know.
And perfectly, I mean, ideally, they would commit to, within some reasonable timeline, meeting what we think is the necessary upgrades to provide for the future. And I know this has been said 1,000 times, but just so I am clear, we can regulate nothing with regard to the internet service side of Suddenlink's business, correct?
Well, the same system brings in, we have to stick to the cable side, yes.
The infrastructure's the same, but we, for instance, cannot put in some minimum data speed or something like that for the internet.
Only to the extent that it relates to cable services.
Right. That is maddening, but true. Okay. That's all I got.
I have a question. Kind of piggyback off of what Ben was asking. Of the two, what's the greater problem? Is it the technological part of failure, or is it due to the service to the customer?
Well, I think recently it's been, and I don't know how far back it goes, it's been customer service. In their 10K report, they say that they're doing fiber to the home in a part of their Suddenlink system. That under their 10K report, they're saying they're doing it all to their whole Cablevision. They bought out New York Cablevision, and then they bought out Suddenlink, I believe, in 21 states. Okay, so Cablevision is going fiber, is going fiber to the home. And in their 10K report, they said that they're doing that for a part of their Suddenlink cities, you know, and you know that wouldn't that be great if this was one of them. You know, I'm right now discussing with another big fiber entity out there that provides fiber and doesn't provide, I mean, it's not a cable company, it's a fiber company with one of my cities, and talking about something like Ponca City is doing, okay? So that's out there. I mean, if the competition exists, they would have to step up. They would have to step up to do it, you know, or even lose customers. So, you know, right now it's currently, you know, 1 gig speed, you know, and Ben, you said that your speeds are faster, you know, I think you did.
Yeah, I know. I have AT&T fiber optic to my office building. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I'm in the Weimer-Brownlee building, and I'm paying a bunch of money for their connection, and they have a really fast connection. I mean, you go to your phone, you hit, if you want to hit a series, any series on Netflix, you just go, you just hit them all, and they're done. They're downloaded. I mean, you're not waiting for anything to turn. They are just coming as fast as you can believe. So that out there exists, yes.
What Ben was talking about a while ago, having some format to be able to track these violations that you've talked about, or non-compliances, right? I'm not interested in any of the city staff trying to do that. Would it be possible to hire an outside firm, independent outside firm, that Suddenlink would provide every client that called in with a complaint or an issue during the day to that company, and then they would follow up with a survey, and we would score them. We'd score them today, and then we'd look at that a year from now. I mean, that way we could truly see in a course of 20 questions, 15 questions, whether or not they are improving or if it's about the same. And it wouldn't come from us, and it wouldn't come from Suddenlink.
I'm certain that could be done. I would only point out that really you'd want to do you would set up the criteria for what it is, and it would need to be an unresolved claim, under, an unresolved complaint under whatever time you have, I mean, maybe it initially comes to you, but they need to have a period of time within which to solve it,
No, but didn't it give a timeline on some of that?
Yes, there's timelines on it.
So, I mean,
yes.
it could follow that timeline.
Yes, it can follow that timeline, yes.
If we want to go with the minimum based on the FCCs, I mean, we don't have to necessarily go with the minimums, I would think. I think we could.
No, that's true.
Just saying that would be a good scorecard.
Sure.
To see whether or not they're making improvement or not.
You'd be unbiased that way too.
Yeah. We don't even know if they're getting all their data, all their complaints, or all the dollars that they say. I don't understand how the rate continues to go up and up and up, but our revenue goes down and down and down. If anything, it ought to be flat.
Because they're losing customers.
Well, I'm saying
What
they're
has
losing
been,
customers, but they're also raising the rate on the ones that are there, and our percentage should go up.
It was flat, and then it started going down. But during that period, I mean, it was fairly consistent. Well, we're gonna have a meeting where we're going to discuss more of that. Bring your ideas, send the 10K so that they can, get closer to it. And if there's no other questions, I thank you.
Bryce,
Jerry,
thank
did
you.
you have something?
No, thank you for taking a very difficult subject and kind of putting it concisely of what's going on. I appreciate that. I know we're paying you for it, but.
Well, thank you.
And I know I surprised you when I said I had your document. It wasn't as pretty as yours.
Oh, I know, mine had prettier
It's a lot
stuff
prettier
going.
than the one that I had. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Carol, I believe do we say that this concludes the public hearing portion? Do we need a motion or anything to conclude the hearing?
No.
Okay. That completes the hearing. Again, the gentleman from Suddenlink will be outside if anybody would like to speak with them after the conclusion, well, as we continue on. All right, next up, item number 7, administration. Item 7.1, consider a resolution amending the 2019-2020 Water Capital Improvement Fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $300,000 to increase the 2019-2020 appropriated amounts for the Water Capital Improvement Department.
Motion to approve.
Motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7.2, approve a professional services agreement with Garney Construction, Kansas City, Missouri, for project number W-1912A7, Call Lake Water Supply, Phase 3, pre-GMP, guaranteed maximum price. Activities in the amount of $296,643, and authorize the mayor to execute all contract documents.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve? Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I have one question on this. As far as the easements, is that what we're?
Well, this is for,
This is particularly to hire Garney, but we can answer your question about easements, Commissioner.
Because when we were down in the study session, I was just kind of, I didn't ask the question down there, but I'd like to ask it here. As far as the money that we pay out for the right-of-ways, if we don't move forward and, you know, we go a different route, is that money lost, or?
I think we're the proud owners currently of 115 permanent easements and temporary easements.
Yes, sir.
I understand that, but I'm just asking the question, is that, you know, that's money that's.
That has been
Sunk.
sunk into the ground.
right.
Quite literally.
So what we're doing with this motion is accepting
Seymour.
Garney as the GMP.
Well,
To come up-
all we are doing is hiring them to provide us a 30% pre-GMP price. Nothing more.
And nothing more than that.
We're kind of getting in bed with them, but still, we're.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0, thank you. Item number 8, consent agenda items.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve,
Second.
motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 8-0. I'm sorry, 6-0. 7-0. What is it?
Numbers and power.
Did you vote? Can't count. Jeez. All right, item number 9, recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item number 10, all trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting are here. Item number 11, Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 11.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2019-2020 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the amount of $300,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 11.2, approval of claims in the amount of $87,074.39.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 12, adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item number 13, all trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting are in attendance. Item number 14, Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is in session. Item number 14.1, approval of claims in the amount of $4,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 15, adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item number 16, trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting are all in attendance. Item number 17, Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 17.1, approval of claims in the amount of $7,776.90.
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 18, adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item number 19, public comments. We have one person signed up in the public comment section, Mr. Milton Mitchell. Need your full name and address, sir.
Milton Mitchell, 3621 Antelope Drive, Enid, Oklahoma.
Okay.
I want to talk about the commission. and I'm sorry the newspaper and they all should be here, because the city commission and the mayor need to be paid positions. What I just witnessed with Suddenlink, with the time that it goes into what these gentlemen are doing, they should be compensated. I think, and I know if you were to say this, it probably would seem self-serving, and I felt it necessary as a citizen in Enid, Oklahoma, to come forth and say this. But I think that the commissioners should receive at least $20,000 a year, and that the mayor should be paid $30,000 a year. And I think that's just a mere pittance of what you should be paid for the number of hours and times that you put in. And you have the city's interest at heart, obviously. And I've watched it, and not that I'm hoping to run for office and then get in the office so that I can be paid, because I'm not going to do that. I am not. I know that I'm talking to people that are interested in serving, this city. And I think that's just a mere penance that should come forth for the commissioners and the mayor. And really, if it were me, I would start the city commissioners themselves at $30,000 a year and the mayor at $40,000. And I know we could appropriate the funds, and it wouldn't be that hard to do, because we appropriate funds for a little bit of everything in Enid. And people get all types of services free and like that. And our commissioners and our mayor is just working nonstop. And that is really what I came here to do tonight, to talk about. And I thought that was very important. If you ever want to talk about the Call Lake project a little more, you let me know.
All right.
And I think, we could, there are things that we should still be discussing about that. I think there's a little bit of money going down the drain where that situation is concerned, but nevertheless, that's not what I'm here to talk about. So I'm going to say it one more time, and I'm sorry there's so many people left here that didn't hear what I'm saying. But our city commissioners, and if you're the ones that have voted in. If it needs to be a referendum that's given to the citizens of Enid, I would gladly get out here and stomp the streets and get people to vote for that.
We'll say, Mr. Mitchell, I think it actually would require a vote of the public. And further, I think if any of us, if we sent it to a vote of the public, we would ourselves be precluded from receiving that compensation.
Which is fine.
You mean this current?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say, appreciate it nonetheless.
But I still think that it should be something that should be put before the citizens. I really think that it is something that should be done. And
It was done. I think the last time was last century, and maybe it's time to do it again.
I think it is time to revisit it again, because I think that once we started with city managers and like that, probably back in 1963 or somewhere back in there. 1947. So they've had, no disrespect to our city manager and assistant city manager, but, they get paid. But our commissioners work just as hard and give in just as much time and put in forth just as much effort. And I think that you gentlemen, and if ladies in the future, or whomever it is, that you should be compensated. So that was what I wanted to talk about. Appreciate you.
You might have to say it one more time.
So tell it
one more time. Where have you been, man?
We'll give you a spot.
I understand. Suddenlink kind of wore us out.
Interview this man after.
Right, all you want about him.
Sure. So what I was talking about was the city commissioners and the mayor should be paid, and they should be compensated for the work that they're doing. I feel that they work as hard as as our CEO does, and I think they should be compensated for it, and I think it should be a vote that's put before the citizens of Enid. And I think you would be amazed or maybe even shocked, but there's a lot of us. I do mean there's a lot of us out here who think like I think and who believe like I believe that this is something that should be done. So put it before us. Give us an opportunity to say what we want, because we do want to see that. Thank you.
All right.
I will say that every time somebody says you need to do what we pay you to do, I promptly walk away.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. This is an item that has been discussed before, but we will bring it forward and see if there's interest to do that. I appreciate the fact that you and the other citizens in the community appreciate the work that we're doing on a voluntary basis, but we're doing it to serve. And that doesn't mean we would not cash the check, okay? But we're serving because we want to serve our community. So I do appreciate it.
Our military is serving.
That's right. Yep.
So, because you serve doesn't mean you should not be compensated.
True. All right. Thank you for your marks. All right. That's all we had. Is there any other comments from the floor that didn't get a chance to sign up? Ma'am?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to ask a question to the Suddenlink guy about the PEG channels. I know that as of Commissioner Jansen, the whole idea was to keep that gay stuff off of TV, which is why basically the public has been denied access to the P channels. Now, the gentleman who was up here saying that you had, you're doing a good job getting the government to the community, that's the G channel. We're doing well doing the education. Then what in the world is the P channel for? I wanted to ask him that question, and I may get to do that yet.
Okay, thank you. All right. Item number 20, consider convening into executive session to discuss the performance of City Attorney Carol Lehman, consider the possible termination of the existing Oklahoma gas and electric franchise, or commencement of negotiations to renew said franchise, and to reconvene into regular session to take any necessary action. With that, we'll move on upstairs.
Motion to approve.
Yeah. Second.
Motion to approve, second. All in favor, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Yeah, I know.